Overwatch 2 rank system needs some improvements. Now, and I will preface this by saying, I do think it's a good system and a lot of the concepts are actually good ideas, but the way it's actually being measured right now, I think needs some big improvements. I'm going to talk to you guys today about what the problems are and how I think they can be solved. So let's start out with this. I'm mainly talking about the modifiers, right? Reversals for losses, which means you lose more when you were expected by the matchmaker to win the game, but you lost the game, you lose more. In the same way that if you lost a game that you were expected to lose, you lose less as a consolation, and vice versa. If you win a game you were expected to lose, you get uphill battle, which gives you additional 5% point per uphill battle, right? Or an expected, which was a game you were expected to win, which you would get less. I think these modifiers are not being accurately applied right now. It's missing a very crucial element in the game in that the power between the roles are not even. Tank, support, and DPS in 5v5 Roadlock are not the same level of value in the game. Let me give you guys an example. I was playing a game yesterday where I think I was either low GM1 or high GM2, right around that range, right, on New Junk City's new reworked map, which actually is a lot better. The map reworks in Overwatch 2 have gotten better and better and better. It's night and day from when the game launched with the new, like, Colosseo rework. I won't get into that in this video, but we basically got queued into this game, and the range of the map, or the match, was M3 to GM, I think, 2, which is what I was at the time, high GM2. So I'm the highest ranked player in the game. The system then says, okay, he's the highest ranked player in the game. He's expected to win this game, because if he's the GM2 player in a Masters lobby, he should win this game. My poor tank finished the game 10-11. He was a Masters 3 peak player, fresh at his peak, getting pulled into a GM game. I am 6 skill tiers higher than that player. And not only am I 6 skill tiers higher than that player, but the difference in actual raw skill from Masters to GM, those 6 tiers are exponentially higher in terms of the actual skill gap between the M3 and the GM2 than, say, a Silver 3 to Gold 2. The higher up you go in the ranks, like the wider the skill gap is between the players, between tiers. For example, like, there's a big difference between a GM4 player and a Champ 5 player, right? Big difference. That's probably the largest skill gap because, again, the higher up you go in the ranks, the greater the gap in skill for the tiniest of rank, right? That's just how these games work, or any game works, right? But my tank finishes 10-11, and their tank finishes like 36-8 or 36-5. The crazy tank gap, right? However, despite that, I still finished with the best DPS stat line in the game at like 26-7 or 20, something like that, while their DPS were 21-3, whatever it might be. And obviously, stats aren't the end-all be-all, and I'm not saying I shouldn't have lost Elo. If we lost the game as a team, we should lose. But how a lot of these fights ended up breaking down when my tank is getting gapped that hard is like this. Their tank walks and kills my tank, right? Those two roles trade out. I would TP on backline as Reaper and either kill a DPS or a support. And after all these trades went on of people exchanging, what was left was me and one support, a DPS and one support, versus one support and their tank. And you might say, well, Samito, you're GM2, their tank is, let's say, Masters 1, or God, if their tank is higher ranked than Masters 1, and say he's my rank, it's definitely unfair. But let's say, for the sake of the argument here, we're going to let them go ahead and say that tank was also Masters. It matched the two tanks of equal rank. Well, take a guess of this, guys. You have a GM3 player against a Masters 1 tank. Both of them have a support pocket, and they're fighting for the point. Who wins the most out of 10? And the answer in super tanks, and because of 5v5 Roadlock, is that tank will probably win that matchup like 8 or 9 times out of 10. overwhelmingly, maybe every time, the tank will win that matchup, because the tanks, in order to get people to play tank in Overwatch 2 in the 5v5 format, their solution was to make tanks so powerful that people want to play them. And it works. It works. The only way they get people to play solo tank is to make the tank so powerful that it's quote-unquote fun to play. The only problem with that is the rank system has not learned to accurately judge that yet, right? It hasn't judged that in a meaningful way. I would say the analogy I would use is the tanks are the queen of the board in chess, right? The queen can do everything. It's the most powerful and versatile piece on the chessboard, right? And DPS, I wouldn't say DPS are pawns. I think maybe knight is a better example. And supports are the rooks. The rooks are very, very flexible, very powerful pieces that can take a lot of space on the board. The knights they're a threat, but they're much more limited in what they can actually do compared to the queen, right? So if I asked you if there are two pieces left on the board, on the chessboard, one is a rook and a queen, the other is a rook and a knight, who's favored to win? And the answer is the queen, right? Because the queen is just a better piece on the board. The same goes for super tanks in Overwatch 2. I'm not actually favored to win that matchup, even if I am a much more high-ranked player and skilled player, because the tanks have become so strong that you can't make a play on the tank because its cooldowns and health bail it out every time. But the system is still measuring me as favored because I'm higher ranked than that player. But my rank is not actually taking account the handicap and raw true power of the tank role in that matchup. And in that game, that is what most of the matchups boiled down to when my super tank was playing so poorly because he got pulled into a game that he wasn't ready for, that I can't overcome that gap even when I'm outperforming the DPS on their team. How stat lines usually work at Overwatch is the winning team across the board will generally have better stats, even if the players are not the reason, like even if the DPS aren't the reason why they're winning and it's the tank, the DPS will also have better KDs because they're winning more fights outright because their tank is carrying them and their team is outperforming the other team. So there's a little bit of a bell curve there, right, that you have to kind of judge. Like if your whole team is negative and you have a 2 KD, that means that you played really, really well despite your team being bad, right? If your team had been better and you played the exact same way, you could have had like a 3.5 KD, something like that, but your team is really struggling and trolling, especially when it's the super tank. In this lobby, I still finished with the best DPS stat line in the entire lobby, despite the most important piece on my team hard throwing the game. And yet, despite that, the system still gave me an additional loss penalty of a reversal. I don't think that the system is, one, measuring those things accurately, or two, giving me an opportunity to at least play out of the penalty. If I'm very clearly statistically, and again, stats aren't the end all of the game, but if I'm 27-5 and my tank is 10-11 and their super tank is 36-8, it's very clear that I am not the problem on this team. I should not receive additional loss penalty in a game that I'm favored in when the system somehow thinks a freshman Masters 3 super tank, the player that has the most control over the game, is somehow not the reason why we're losing, and I should get additional punishment because that player was not ready for the game. And to be fair, I'm not blaming that player. He shouldn't be in that game. It's the matchmaker's fault, not that player's fault. But if Aaron or Gavin or anybody from Blizzard sees this, I'd like for you to explain to me why that should be the case. Is your system accurately measuring the fact that DPS are not nearly on the same level as the super tank? And if you don't believe me, do this internally, because that's how the fights in 5v5 break down. It's very deathmatchy, right? If your tank is getting giga-gapped, right? And you go trade out the other DPS, the best thing you're doing is trading out the opposing knight. Ultimately, you're still going to have to go up against the queen on the board to win the fight. Go ahead and do that. Do 2v2s internally, one tank and one support versus one DPS and one support, and fight on a flashpoint objective. And see who wins the most times out of 10. I can give you a hint, guys, as to how that's going to look. the tank is going to win 10 times out of 10 or 9 times, an overwhelming majority. It literally might be every time. You know what? This might be a fun video experiment. I'm going to do this myself, actually, and prove just how broken the tanks are. I'm going to get players that are like 5 skill tiers under me, literally Masters peak players, and they're going to duel me on tank. I'm going to duel them on DPS and 2v2s, and we're going to see who wins the most. And that's kind of going to prove that skill doesn't matter. Skill doesn't matter in these matchups. So that's what the ranks. I am going to do that, actually. I'll do it for you guys. We're going to do that, okay? So it'll be called Proving the Tank Power Creep. That'll be a very, very fun thought experiment. I'm sure Reddit's going to love me for that one. Though I could cure cancer and Reddit would still hate me, which is kind of funny if you think about it. But yeah, no, guys, this system needs to be improved. You should be able to personally play out of reversals, or maybe not expected, but at least the penalty if you're clearly not the reason why you lost the game. I'm okay with losing ELO. It's a team-based game. It is what it is. No game is going to be perfect, nor no system, right? But I mean, it's ridiculous that I can play that well when the game is clearly not lost because of me. And I get additional punishment because the format is a lopsided, unbalanced, roll power all over the place, disaster. And I get punished more for my super tank being worse. You guys have to at least acknowledge what you've done to tanks and let DPS players have a chance to play out of the penalties that the super tank might cause if you're pulling players up to ranks they have no business being in. So yeah, guys, that's my rant about the ranked modifiers. They got to get improved. They've got to get better, and I hope to see that they can over time. I think the rank system overall is all right, but they have to acknowledge the reality of the decisions of 5v5 and what it's made happen shift, or what it's made shift in the game. So yeah, guys, thank you so much for watching. Super tanks are super tanks. I can't wait to make that video. That actually should be really fun. So yeah, I will talk to you guys later. Take care. Much love. Peace out.